Hello, welcome to Business Live. Our top stories tonight. The World Bank says it is instituting measures to ensure effective use of funds allocated to Ghana for the financing of various projects. Meanwhile, at the launch of the biennial analysis of the state of African economies in Accra, the World Bank has also predicted a 2.6% growth rate in Africa this year. Also coming up tonight, Ghana cautioned against non-compliance of extractive industry transparency initiative standards. We'll have the details shortly.
Business Live today.
My name is Daryl Call. Thanks for tuning in. In our first story tonight, the World Bank boss Jim Young Kim says it is instituting measures to ensure effective use of its funds allocated to Ghana for the financing of various projects. The bank's support for Ghana has come under some scrutiny in recent times as some civil society groups have questioned the impact and usage of these funds in reducing poverty levels. Substantial funds advanced to Ghana are yet to be secured because of some challenges on the part of government to meet drawing requirements. But answering a question from Joy Business at a press conference in Washington, D.C., Mr. Kim said the bank is working hard to address the situation.
The question of aid effectiveness is very important. Now, we at the World Bank Group have all kinds of measures, and we audit every single project. We follow the possibility of corruption very, very closely. But also, we're trying to rethink ourselves. What's the best way to support countries like Ghana in their aspirations? And one of the things that we found is that foreign direct investment often has a much higher impact, much stronger impact on improving institutions and government than aid by itself. This is why we're trying to bring together the financing we provide to governments and also the financing that comes from the private sector to create better institutions, more investment, more jobs, more economic growth in a much more synergistic way. I think that's the one thing that we need to do much more effectively than we have in the past. Because even inside the World Bank Group, the public sector side of the organization, the private sector side of the organization, for the most part, worked almost independently, right? And now what we're going to do is try to both help institutions evolve so that we can talk about de-risking entire countries with policy reform, improving the business environment, and at the same time facilitate the movement of private capital in a way that will lead to, we hope, more economic growth throughout the developing world. So on corruption, on misuse, on loans and grants that don't give any outcomes. We've been following that for a long time, but I think the big question now for us in terms of aid effectiveness is we have got to stop fighting each other for the low-hanging fruit projects. This is what's actually happening right now. If there's some project that looks like it could be commercially viable, meaning it could be financed by the private sector, all the development agencies run after it and fight over it and try to get their money in the door so that they can get the money out of their door, right? So we've been competing with each other for the low-hanging fruit projects as opposed to stepping back and saying the low-hanging fruit projects, we should let the private sector fund that. And then we should work on the higher-hanging fruits that will boost these economies even more. This is a complex and difficult conversation that we're having right now, but it's critical for us to have it because I think that if we don't have it and if we don't move forward in a much more coordinated way, that we'll begin to lose credibility.
So let's link up with my colleague George Rafe, who is in Washington, D.C. for us, covering the IMF World Bank spring meetings. George, what else has the World Bank boss been saying?
When you talk about derivative reform, there are
well, that it's all about ensuring that these measures actually get the desired result. Therefore, as an institution, they're committed to ensure that this actually happens.
Unlike in the past, 75%.
And what about the Ghanaian delegation? What has been their response to what the World Bank boss has been saying?
Well, when you engage them, what you get from them is that they themselves, they are also very committed. It's really a challenge for them in terms of how a lot of these funds are advanced to Ghana, but they just cannot use it. And therefore, they are committed to ensure that they meet all the requirements so that they can get use and get all these funds to use in Ghana for those various projects. So on their part, they see this as a challenge and they are committed to it.
The real question you have is, we're actually starting seeing some of our clients
All right,
look at
and
overseas products.
George, let's
and
talk about,
understand
what
really the
our focus
complexities
is
of
on right
policy
now,
that
the IMF's engagements with the government's delegation over there. We understand that today the IMF, the vice president rather, was supposed to meet with the IMF delegation. What did that meeting happen? What has come out of that?
Well, Darryl, that is yet to happen. We understand that as part of the engagement that have been lined up, but it will be happen. Today, the Vice President had some meetings at the World Bank and also the Finance Minister as well, and that is supposed to happen on Saturday. That meeting that we are all waiting forward to or looking forward to happen is going to happen on Saturday. But today is more of an engagement with has been there. The Finance Minister also has been there, and those are the things. But the meeting with the IMF boss should happen on Saturday, and we are all looking forward to see what will happen. As we speak right now, there are several engagements happening. Ghana is a discussion on the global financial system and what can be done to improve the system, especially for Ghana that we are exposed to the international market in terms of issuing more bonds, and how can we ensure that it has lesser impacts on developing economies like Ghana. And that is what they are discussing right now, and I know that there will be some interesting recommendations coming up that should be interesting for Ghana.
I'm concerned about some of
All right, thanks very much, George. You are reporting there from Washington, D.C. Well, meanwhile, the World Bank is predicting a 2.6% growth rate in Africa this year. Speaking at the launch of the biannual analysis of the state of African economies, the African division of the World Bank noted economies in sub-Saharan region will be in the best position to expand if they considered investing in raw materials and infrastructure. There's more in this report.
According to the report, recovery in African countries remains weak, with growth expected to rise only slightly above population growth, a pace that hampers efforts to boost employment and reduce poverty. Albert Zufak is the World Bank's chief economist for Africa.
Our countries can actually work together in coming up with some regulatory frameworks that apply to the whole regions, coming up with some fiscal regimes that apply to entire regions, and this would actually be easier. This would allow the development of regional infrastructure, which is so critical to expand regional markets in Africa.
The projections made by the World Bank come in the wake of present concerns over the rates of corruption in Ghana. This, the World Bank chief economist fears, is causing economies like Ghana lose much revenue.
I think the idea that there are no private sector investors that are credible in Africa is not correct. There are very dynamic people in the private sector in Africa. What we need is to create the right environment for them to grow and the right regulatory framework for them to enter into partnerships that are more profitable.
The biannual report measures growth rates in Africa considering specific economic and political risk factors.
Well, Ghana has been given the signal to correct some transparency measures in its extractive industry regarding contract and revenue management, or face sanctions in the next International Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative validation, which commences in March 2018. This was disclosed at a stakeholders meeting in Accra to discuss Ghana's 2016 Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative validation report in Accra, and my colleague Ebenezer Sabote filed this report.
The communique from the International Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative warned that Ghana could face sanctions.
Companies could. And so going forward, that's what is going to happen. At the point of registering a company, we get all this information so that we can know exactly who is behind mining operation, mining or extractive industry.
Is it only mining or?
No, it also covers all extractives.
So oil and gas as well.
Yeah, so oil and gas, very soon we are looking at forestry also getting on stream.
Emmanuel Koyole is the Africa Deputy Director for Natural Resource Governance Institute.
Areas that we need to improve, and one of them is on beneficial ownership disclosure. Basically, what it means is that we need to begin to unravel the persons, the human persons behind the contracts, those who controls majority shares or benefits from the oil and gas contracts and mining contracts that we sign. This is very, very important if you want to address and minimize corruption, because once you know the persons behind, then you can be sure, first of all, that you are dealing with real human beings. You can ensure that you minimize fraud. You can also be sure that for the tax agencies, it is easy for them to ensure that they are able to collect the right taxes, but also that they minimize potential for transfer pricing and illicit business deals. So this is very, very important.
Ghana was accepted as an EITI candidate in 2007 and was designated EITI complaint in 2010, making it the second country in Africa to achieve this status.
4G internet service provider Busy has unveiled its new operational strategy focused on youth empowerment, entrepreneurs and SMEs. Under a new brand promise of great things happen, the new outlook aims to further establish Busy as a hub for young people and upcoming entrepreneurs to connect to the world and to realize their dreams. The revamp of the Busy brand forms part of the company's expansion strategy. Busy, formerly an internet cafe, launched its 4G operations in 2016. 1 year on, the 4G operator says it's shifting focus to the youth and aims to become the #1 next-generation 4G operator in the country. Michael Fitzpatrick is Chief Marketing Officer.
Well, I think the telecommunications market in Ghana, like everywhere, is very fast-moving, very, very fast-paced. So we can't remain static. We have to evolve as well. So we felt that given our strategy focusing on the youth, the young, we had to introduce something that was more dynamic, more visually arresting. But it's not just about the icon, it's not just about the logo, it's also about what sits behind it. And what sits behind it is a terrific focus on trying to empower the youth of Ghana. We can see quite clearly that there are lots of people going through education. I was just at the University of Ghana last week, 40,000 students there. But the thing that we keep hearing most is, okay, once I graduate, what happens then? How do I get a job? What can I do? And what we're trying to do is we're trying to give the Ghanaian youth, try and support that sense of, okay, if I don't get a job, I want to build my own business. How do I do it? Well, you need communication. You need to be able to connect. And so that's what we're about.
The revamp of the Busy brand also comes with the introduction of innovative mobile digital platforms, including My Busy mobile app, an interactive platform that allows customers to track their data usage. Speaking at the launch of Busy's new brand, Deputy Communications Minister George Anda said government would ensure factors that slow down the growth of business, such as data, are permanently resolved.
We have a team that are in charge of policy, that understand what the pain points of the operators are. We understand what the needs of the customers are. And indeed, it's our responsibility to make sure that we're putting the right infrastructure, we're putting the right policies to support operators to deliver the best telecoms experience. And that is our commitment.
The launch of the revamped Busy brand also saw the opening of the company's flagship store. Aviation Now and Vice President of the International Air Transport Association, IATA, says the removal of taxes on airfares may boost air traffic in Ghana. Government in its 2017 budget removed the 17.5% VAT on domestic flights. Speaking to Joy Business, Vice President of IATA, Raphael Kuchi, said the initiative may cause a jump in passenger volumes for domestic carriers.
Air tickets was introduced in 2014 and subsequently led to an increment in the prices of domestic airfares and a slump in business for domestic carriers. The recent budget presentation by the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, however, saw the 17.5% tax being scrapped, a move which the Vice President of Ofori-Atta said would give a boost to air travel.
The moment VAT was introduced, if you check the figures from Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, domestic traffic just dropped and remained down. Now with the removal, we are soon going to see that traffic will begin to go up again, because aviation is a price-sensitive industry. The passengers are price-sensitive, especially on domestic fronts. Unless it is attractive, people will use alternative means of transport. And in this case in Ghana, it's road transport. Ghana, the distances are not too far apart. It's not a very big country. So if air transport fares are too high, the passengers will use other means. And I believe that now that we have seen the removal of VAT, we aim to see a significant increase in traffic very soon.
Vice President of Ofori-Atta, Mr. Raphael Kuchi, further lauded the reduction in prices of jet fuel.
If you talk to the Ghana Airports Company today, with the reduction of the fuel price by 25%, it has actually gotten the fuel volumes, the fuel uplift from Ghana just gone up significantly. Now, what does this mean? This means a lot of airlines are putting money into the Ghanaian economy. This is a country we need foreign currency, we need foreign exchange. So by being able to sell a lot more fuel than we were selling before, we're generating a lot more fuel, a lot more money into the economy. It has also helped create jobs. Because now Ghana is very competitive, we are seeing that some airlines are coming into the country. And some airlines who already were operating in Ghana are increasing their frequencies, because they are seeing that it's cheaper to operate here than to operate elsewhere.
Reported for Joy Business, Sheila Tamaklo.
Let's turn to the financial sector, where banks and other financial institutions in the country have been asked to educate their customers to help curb the rising rate of non-performing loans in the country. Latest figures from the banking sector stability report by the Bank of Ghana indicate non-performing loans of banks have not done too well. Speaking to Joy Business, financial consultant Charles Mensah stressed the issue can't be controlled if financial institutions embark on an educational drive to enable them have a better understanding of record keeping.
It's also a place where when companies need money, they can do a paper and then list that bond there, so people will participate. Now, once you are listed on the bond market, which we have, you are then open to the fund managers. I am referring to the pension funds, the second tier and the third tier. They have those cash, so they can come in and participate in the bond market. So if you take a company, ABL Limited, he wants to raise money. So instead of directly going to the bank, he can raise a bond and say $10 million, and he will have a rate attached to it. So maybe it's a CD bond. So you can decide that for a 10-year bond, I am doing it at 17% or 20%. Those men and boys and girls playing the money market would participate by buying a portion of it, which is different from when you go to the bank for a loan. The bank has to fund the total application that you've applied. But with the bond market, it's broken down. So you can own a part, I can own a part, somebody else can own a part, and amongst us would have cleared the total amount involved. So either the interest will be paid biannually or quarterly. So every quarter, I would expect some interest to come. Likewise. Now, the good side is that anytime I am ready to pull out, I can go to the market and sell my share of the bond that I bought. And then you yourself, the appetite would have been good for you. So by the time I'm selling, you're also buying. And then the company itself may have improved their cash flow. So they can also decide that By the time the holders of the bond are selling, I am buying back. So you have these things playing there for you, and that's what you do. That's what the money market and the bonds market, that's all it is. So, but you need to have a very good back office research, where they will research and appreciate that definitely when it comes to the D-Day, you would honor the debt.
This is Business Live. We are taking a short break. We'll be back with our interview of the day. Welcome back to the program. We want to bring you our interview of the day now. And Managing Director of Women's World Bank Ghana, Charlotte Baidu, says the bank is considering improving the financial literacy status of Ghanaian women in the hinterlands to reflect the desires of renowned entrepreneur, the late Esther Oklu. Google on Tuesday honored the late entrepreneur by creating a doodle to mark her 98th birthday. Now, in an interview with Joy Business, the managing director of the bank noted that the dream of Esther Oklu, also the founder of Women's World Bank Ghana, was to improve the lot of Ghanaian women who venture into various businesses in the country.
The work that Mrs. Esther Oklu did, I think we are still living her dreams. So what we do in Women's World Banking is that we go to the hinterland to meet with the women group and give them loans and try to give them financial literacy, educate them on savings culture, and to help them to grow better. And in that sense, their businesses equally grows and the family and everybody is happy.
What do you describe as the true state of Ghana's women in terms of financial, empowerment? Has it improved over the years, or it's still what it used to be in the colonial days?
Well, I think that women have improved, because when you look at the financial landscape, in even 10 years ago, vis-a-vis today, you see more women being empowered more than previously. And they equally understand even the business of financing more, because these days when you even go to the market and you want to give somebody a loan, the person will take a calculator and calculate whether it will benefit her or not before she will take the loan. Hitherto it wasn't like that. They just take the loan for taking it. So I believe that we have graduated and there are more people who understand the culture of financing than it used to be. So to me, I think that we've gone ahead.
And thanks for watching the show. We are back tomorrow with another edition of Business Live. My name is Daryl Kwao. Thanks for watching.